Hey everyone, and welcome to Speaking from the Purple Couch. And today we're talking about sit down and stay covered while God makes your enemies your footstool. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I know that we are definitely living in perilous times, for certain, for real, no joke. And it may seem like it's chaotic, and because it is, let's not act like it's not. And there's this uncertainty all around us, that the economy, the unrest in society, the threats that seem to be on every side. It's kind of easy to want to fight back. And as we've been saying, it's for me, I've been very antsy because I feel I want to do more. I want to get out there and fight for justice because, I've been that person who always want to stand up for, the marginalized and the underserved. And I believe at this moment, we are called to sit down. And not that we're sitting down and not doing anything, because from your home, you can do a lot of things. You can call um, your congressional representatives, your local representatives. Uh, this is what really sparked me to kind of calm down and uh, not back down, but kind of calm down and not be as antsy about feeling I need to do more. As I was listening to uh, Tabitha Speaks, and she was talking about, you know, it was like the ancestors said, stay in, sit down, do things you can do. And I spoke about this on previous videos. Do things that you can do. I mean, you can boycott, participate in boycott, holding your funds, keeping your money, spending it with places that have not succumbed to this environment of chaos and control. You can, like I said, call your congressional representatives, your local representatives. You can do things without being out there in the thick of like the marches. But when Tabitha Speaks was talking, she was like, the ancestors are saying, you all need to stay in and let others push forward and move forward. And that hit me because I was like, yeah, and she said it was almost like a whisper in so many of our ears that some of us, we didn't really understand why we were kind of like laying back, laying low, and kind of staying in. But I totally understand that. And that's how it ties into sit down and stay covered while God makes your enemies your footstool. And he is definitely working on our behalf. I believe that it's not a thing of these parties, Dems, independent, green, yellow. It's not that. It's about good and evil at this point. It's about justice. And that is what we have to kind of like focus on and believe that things are going to work out. Things are going to work out. Things are going to change. Sitting down, like I said, doesn't mean doing nothing. There are things we can do, things I'm doing. Staying covered doesn't mean hiding in fear. It means that we're trusting God's timing. We're trusting his plan, and we trust in his power. While the enemy schemes and while the storms rage and while injustice seems to have like the upper hand, God is orchestrating a divine strategy. we have to stand on that. We have to believe that. We have to believe that he's arranging pieces and turning obstacles into opportunities, and that he actually will make our enemies our footstools, not by our strength, not by our effort, but by his authority. These times are testing our faith, it's testing our patience, it's testing our perseverance, and of course, again, the natural response is often to react, to push, to fight in our own strength. But that is not where victory comes from. Victory comes from positioning ourselves under his protection and staying covered by his spirit and letting him fight for us. Remember what the word says: do not fret because of evildoers, do not be envious of the wicked, for the Lord loves justice and he will not forsake his faithful ones. So no matter how your enemies may plot, their plans will not succeed. And I want to share a story, because when I was listening to Tabitha Speaks, and she was talking about sit down hit me, because I recall a time when I was going to the Washington Bible College. I was working at a health insurance company, and I had a supervisor that was a plotter, and he, I said he was, the devil personified in the things that he did and said. And then I had someone that was under me that I had actually promoted to be a supervisor. I promoted her because of her work. See, it's not a personal thing with me on the job, because I'm not there to make friends. But if your work speaks for itself, then hey, I'm going to promote you, encourage you, recognize you. So I had actually promoted her to be a supervisor because of the way she worked and how she was able to handle situations. But what was happening is that both of them were kind of like in cahoots, trying to push me out in a way. So I had this dream, and the dream was of a lion and a tiger. And I remember the lion and the tiger, they were like coming at me. Now, in the dream, if these type of animals are coming after you, you're going to be like, whoop, whoa, what is up like that? I'm ready to run. But I heard God's voice say, sit down. Now I'm like, sit down? A lion and a tiger is about to come and eat me up. But in the dream, I sat down. And when I sat down, the lion laid at my feet, right at the bottom of my feet, and the tiger laid like right around where my ankle was. They just laid there. They did not harm me. They did not try to bite me. It was like, and so then God just kept saying to me, sit down, sit down. And when I realized, I said, oh my goodness, sit down. He's going to make my enemies my footstool. So this lion and this tiger, they not going to harm me, whatever they plotting. Because when they first was coming at me, they was looking very ferocious and looked like they was kind of hungry, and they was ready to chew up some things. But when they got to me after I sat down, then they were at my feet. So I was like, oh my goodness. Now remember, I'm telling you that at that point, God was saying, these are the people at your job. The lion, is your supervisor, and the tiger is the person that's under you. And so I was like, oh my goodness. So he's saying, whatever the plot is, it will not succeed. I just need you, because I wanted to fight. I wanted to come back with words and say some stuff, say some things I need to be saying, but say some things, because I do recall one time they actually had called a meeting, had my staff in a meeting. And I was like, really? And what they did is that they called me in with my staff sitting there. And I was like, oh no, what is this? I don't think so. And so said, I turned around. I was like, you, what is this? You trying to plot and do whatever? And my staff was kind of looking kind of crazy because they're in there, my boss, the person under me, and then they call me in afterwards. So I don't know what it is they was asking my staff or whatever, but hey, the bottom line is I turned my little happy self around and like, no, I don't know what this is, this ambush or whatever, but I'm not having it. So goodbye. And I went to my office and I was like, okay, that's cool. Goodbye. And so I was like, okay, God, I know something is on the horizon. And now that I turned around and walked out that meeting, he really going to be like saying whatever. But again, I still kept in the forefront of my mind, sit down to see, you can't fight with, flesh and blood. This is spiritual wickedness in high places. So that means that not by might, not by my might. So I was like, okay. So I finally got it in my spirit. Just calm down. You don't have to react to everything. You don't have to say something or, counter everything that they say. You don't have to come back with a comeback. Just, okay, all right. And so this is what blew me away. Because now I'm going to walk in obedience, okay? So this is what blew me away. Like I said, I was working there, but I had actually relocated to Richmond during this time, Richmond, Virginia. And so I was commuting. I was in Washington Bible College because when God kept talking to me about sit down, we were in the New Testament. I was in my New Testament survey class, and he just had me looking through the New Testament, Hebrews, Revelations, First Corinthians, where I would see sit down. And mostly everywhere when God said sit down, he was going to make the enemies footstools. So I was studying that. So when I went home, after I really held on to that and understood that, and it was in my spirit, I was like, okay, I'm gonna release all this anxiety, and I'm going to sit down and let God fight my battle. So I go home, and that Sunday, I went to a church with this pastor. She asked me to come with her to this church. And so it was in Dinwiddie County. I'll never forget, it was a small church. Now, there was the pastor, and, I've talked about this as well, about prophecy. I believe in prophecy, but I don't believe that prophecy is you put a quarter in the slot machine and then you get your prophecy, meaning that I don't believe we pay for prophecies. If it's of God, it's a word from God, and God's word is not for sale. But anyway, I went somewhere else. But after the service was, closing, and they did the offering, and, people, go around, I gave an offering. I mean, but it wasn't nothing like cool. And the pastor didn't see what people was giving anyway. So then he just started calling people up, and he called me up, and he said to me, you have passed the test. Now you will be elevated. So I'm like, okay, I received that. He didn't know me from Adam to Eve to Steve, because I had never been to that church before. I had only came because the other pastor, her name was Pastor Milton, asked me to come. So I went there with her. And oh my goodness, I received that word. I was like, okay. And it just resonated with me that I had passed the test and now I'm going to be elevated. So I said, okay. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe I passed the test of the fact that I actually finally sat down and I'm trusting God to work everything out. Because it was enough commuting back and forth to Richmond to DC. Okay, that was enough. Then to be having this other stressors, my supervisor and the girl that was under me, feeling like they were, trying to put me in a cage somewhere. So that was enough stress, the commute. So I go into the office. That was Sunday when he said that to me. I go into the office that Monday. Now remember, I done got through everything. I have said, oh my goodness, I am going to trust God. I am going to sit this one out and let the Lord fight my battle. I go in on Monday. Our president calls a meeting into what they call the vestibule. So everybody comes to the vestibule. We don't know what the meeting is. He just got on the loudspeaker, coming to the vestibule. I'm calling the meeting. We all go to the vestibule, all of us standing around. Nobody know what is up. Out of nowhere, I did not apply for this. Out of nowhere, the president of the company said to me, I am promoting you to associate director, and now you will report to me. I was in total shock. This came out of left field. I did not apply for the position. The position wasn't posted anywhere. It was just made for me. And all I could remember, and I'm telling you, tears was rolling down my eyes, because then I saw the power of God. Because just that day before, that Sunday, I was at that church, and that preacher said to me, you have passed the test and you will be elevated. I was elevated to a new position, a higher position as associate director. I was the youngest associate director there. And I no longer had to report to that lion. So now I'm reporting directly to the president. And guess what? The lion called me in his office. Oh, I kind of, agree with the president. Yeah, okay, right. And then of course the girl, oh, congratulations. Okay, yeah, right. So anyway, I just had to go into my office and I had to sit and just thank God. And because then I realized that obedience is better than sacrifice. And I finally got it in my head that I had to sit down and trust God. And so from that, like I said, all that is going on, it is that time for rest. It is that time to sit down. Circumstances may seem impossible, but God is still on the throne. And when the time is right, he will turn what was meant for harm into your triumph, what was meant to destroy you into your testimony, and what seemed impossible into your victory. So remain still, remain covered, remain faithful. Watch as God makes your enemies your footstool. Because I'm telling you, that dream, I saw that the lion and the tiger was at my feet. And I'm telling you, I could get up and shout even right now, but I'm just letting you know, sometimes we have to sit. This is a call to faith in the midst of chaos. We have to trust him. We have to obey him and stay under his covering, because the same God who calms the storm, who parts the Red Sea, who raises the dead, who is working on your behalf and will never leave you nor forsake you, because he is your defender. He is your advocate. He is your champion. And when he moves, even the fiercest opposition will bow. Sit down, stay covered. Watch him work. I'm telling you, victory is coming. It is here. It is no joke. And I mean, I'm just overwhelmed and just sharing. But that is what took me all the way back when I was hearing sit down, because I'm telling you, I was getting very antsy, just feeling I wasn't doing enough. But I believe that the things that I have done, it does matter. Even if I withheld $2 here or didn't go, buy from this corporation, this company, and started investing and buying in another Black-owned company or another small business, then I feel that I'm doing some things. If I'm calling my congressional representative and saying, how I'm feeling, because remember, we the people, we are voting these people in. So we are doing something, but we don't necessarily have to be out in the streets, because there's others whose time has come. It is their calling now to go out there and fight, fight, fight. And we can support them in other ways. I remember reading where one young lady said that she was helping to make signs and providing water. She didn't go out, but she was doing her part. So there are other ways that we can contribute. And I am just grateful and thankful about the sit down lesson. Sit down, get down lesson. Okay. So I just wanted to share that. And I wanted to encourage you, don't feel like you're not doing anything, because there are things you can do. And let me tell you, the telephone number you can call to reach your congressional representative is 202-224-3121. I'm about education. I'm about providing information. It's not about left, right, up, or down. It's about justice, truth, and what is right. That's what it's about for me. So the number again is 202-224-3121. I don't care who you voted for, who you didn't vote for. The bottom line is, at a time like this, we all need to do our part. And if we're not going on the outside, there are a lot of things we can do sitting down on the inside. So be blessed. And I hope this encouraged you and also gave you some relief to realize that even though you may be in a posture of sitting down, you are not sitting down and not doing anything. But it's just, this is your season to sit down and rest from the outside activities, because there's others who have been called to do it at this time, for such a time as this. Be blessed and have a wonderful day.
Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe.